Welcome everybody to another episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening or watching to this. So this episode is called How to Stop Dieting and Eat Normally, and I'm giving you 5 steps to feeling normal around food. So the most important step to healing your relationship with food is to stop dieting. And this is the least popular part when I work with my clients and when I talk to people who have been dieting and binging for most of their life. It's scary as shit, but you cannot skip this part. No matter how advanced you might feel with regards to following my other recommendations, for example, eating intuitively, building healthy habits, listening to your body, you cannot skip the part of not dieting, okay? It's really important. So giving up dieting is the absolute first step you must do in regards to get a normal relationship with food. Because if you're still restricting foods like sugar, carbs, dairy, whatever it is, unless it's a medical requirement, of course, you need to have unlimited amount of acceptance and allowance for any food. Even if you say to me, well, I actually feel a bit bloated after I've eaten dairy, or I don't feel that great after I've eaten sugar, that means I'm gonna try not to eat it. Well, I say no. The whole point to eat it is your body will then understand, after eating it whenever you want it, it will understand that you don't feel that great. And so naturally, and let me emphasize this word naturally, you will stop choosing it as a natural process, not from a restriction mindset, if that makes sense. So I know choosing to stop dieting is really terrifying. It feels so vulnerable and so scary, but trust me, I understand how unattractive this part is, because sometimes following a diet plan is just easier and more straightforward. And I'm not going to lie to you and say once you stop dieting everything's going to be perfect. It won't, but it's so necessary to give up dieting to start to fix your relationship with food. So I'm going to share with you 5 steps that will help you stop dieting and feel normal around food. So to step 1, remove 100% of all the rules and any restrictions you have at the moment around food. And to remove obsession, compulsion around food, you need to get rid of all of your food rules and restrictions, aside from obviously medical restrictions or allergies, where if you're like allergic to peanuts, then of course you're not going to eat peanut butter even if you want it, because you might actually die. That's pretty obvious. But lifting any of the dieting restrictions is like a powerful form of reverse psychology. Like when you give yourself 100% unconditional permission, and I want to underline, put in bold the word unconditional, not because you went to the gym today, that means you're allowed to have it, or not because it's a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, you're allowed to have it. I mean unconditional permission to have whatever food you want. It actually helps you not want it in the long run. I've studied psychology. This is such a big, important step to understand, because that's what will happen. So this means there's no calorie counting, no more bans on any foods. All foods are allowed and all foods are equal. So the idea is to neutralize food so that you can instead start to listen to your body and then achieve your natural weight, whatever that will be for you. People say to me, Victoria, will I lose weight working with you? Do you know the answer I like to give is who knows? Because deep down, the answer is usually yes, you will lose weight, because especially if you've been in the binge restrict cycle and clients come to me because they're not feeling very well, because I was just thinking in my head, I generally have got such a bad cold right now and I don't feel well. that randomly came in there. Sorry, let me go back to what I was talking about. Clients come to me because they're sick of binging. They're binging more than they're managing to restrict, and they've just had enough and they don't know what to do. So if that is the case, it's not natural for your body for you to binge on food a lot of the time. So, of course, when you just learn to eat normally, you will lose weight. But there's a process, and it's likely that you'll put weight on to begin with, although my clients do not weigh themselves, and then your weight will gradually go down and stable out. It's called the natural set point theory, and so I'll talk about that another time. But whatever weight is natural and most healthy for you, your body will find that when you have a normal relationship with food. The thing is, people don't want to do the work and have the patience to get to this stage. But then what they don't understand is if you don't take time to work through all of this, to do the necessary work, to get a normal relationship with food, you're just going to be on the diet and binge cycle forever. And that is just so exhausting. And so it's so worth the work and the uncomfortableness, I promise you. That's important to work with a coach to get you supported through this process. So at this point, when people are giving up dieting, I say you're allowed as much food as you want, whenever you feel hungry, you can eat whatever food you want, okay? And this is reverse psychology. And if you don't fully allow food, you will revert back to restriction and binging. So this is such a crucial step. So like I said earlier about if you feel shit after you've ate loads of sugar or loads of chocolate, that's a good thing because it's part of the process. Because after you get through the rebellion binges, which is stage 2 of when you give up dieting, that's what happens. You start to get in sync with what your body wants, but you do go through a rebellion binge stage, and that is totally normal. The next episode, I'm going to talk about the stages, what happens to your body when you give up dieting. So this is how to give up dieting, and the next episode is going to be what happens when you give up dieting. So step 2 is to follow my intuitive eating guidelines, which was the episode from not last week but the week before, and the episode title is called What Does Intuitive Eating Even Mean? So just to recap briefly, my response to intuitive eating is eat whatever you want when you feel like you want to eat something, and stop until you're satisfied. And that doesn't mean sometimes you won't be satisfied until you're over full. Sometimes you'll be satisfied when you're like a little bit still a bit hungry. Like it can change from day to day. So do not turn this into an intuitive eating diet, which is why I don't recommend my clients just following intuitive eating indefinitely, because there's so much mindset work to be done around this. But in my intuitive eating guidelines, it at least stops you from physically restricting. Eat when you're hungry or when you really want food. Eat exactly what it is that you want, and stop when you feel satisfied, whatever that means to you. So by focusing on these guidelines, when you give up dieting, it does give you some kind of structure to go towards, because giving up food rules can be so scary because you're like, well, what do I do? No one's telling me what to eat, or what, like a diet plan's not telling me how to eat. So following these guidelines that I've recommended does give you a little bit of security and makes you feel more in control of how you're going to react. And step 3 is develop emotional tolerance. And this is the most important but the most difficult skill. So most compulsive eaters and binge eaters are completely out of touch with their emotions. So much so they don't even know what they're feeling. And this drives the compulsion to overeat in the first place, because if we feel something we don't want to feel, we just eat our feelings instead. So by generating awareness of how we actually feel, like why we are going to overeat, there's only one reason why we overeat, and that's because we're deprived or being restricted, either mentally, emotionally, or emotionally, physically, or spiritually. You're missing something in your life, or you're restricting. They're the only reasons why you overeat, because you're not greedy, you're not out of control. There's reasons for this, which is why I'm here to help you. So it's helpful. So like I said in my intuitive eating guidelines about feeling your feelings, it's so helpful to stop mid binge or before you want to overeat or whatever it is, and just stop and be like, talk to yourself. Like, this is how I talk to myself, like, legitimately. I'm like, hey baby girl, like, what's up? What do you need? How can I help you best right now? What do you really need right now, sweetheart? I love you anyway. And it's also so crucial when you do this to promise yourself that whilst you're stopping to check in with your feelings, you will give yourself permission to carry on with that binge after you've done this. Because again, the whole point in this is not to stop your binges like they're a bad thing, because they're not. Your binges or overeating or emotional eating is a reaction, again, to deprivation or restriction in some kind of area of your life. So it's not a bad thing at all, it just is. So by promising yourself you can continue eating after you've checked in with yourself, it just takes away any restriction, because we're having no restrictions here, guys, okay? So once you start building up this emotional awareness, it just helps with every area of your life. So if you're mid-binge and you're like, okay, I'm just going to stop for a minute and just see what's going on. I'm still going to binge after if I want to. I'm still going to eat whatever I've got left to eat. But let me just stop and get curious as to what is going on. And then I would really, really, really advise you to get your journal or a pen and paper. And I know some people will now be rolling their eyes like, oh, journaling, whatever. But trust me, I also thought the same. Until I started to journal, it is so healing, you guys, because stuff just comes out. Like, you just write, and then sometimes it doesn't really make sense what you write. Sometimes you almost feel like you've not written it, but whatever comes out, just let it come out, and then you can decide what you do with that. But the most important thing is you've stopped, checked in with yourself, and then actually acknowledged how you're feeling and maybe explored why you're feeling that way. And just practicing this, even throughout the day, even when you're not going to binge or overeat or whatever, just practicing this throughout the day just helps you connect with yourself. Like, hey baby girl, what's going on? What do you need right now? Like, and it sounds weird, but like, you live with yourself forever. So why not look after yourself like the best you ever can, to be the happiest you're ever going to be? So again, check in with your feelings, just practice, don't make it into a big thing, just get curious as to why you're feeling the way you feel. So step 4 is be prepared to take 1 step backwards and 2 steps forwards, because this is not a linear process. The second stage of giving up dieting, which you will learn about next week, can be scary because most people binge on their forbidden or previously restricted foods. And if this happens to you, please know that it is temporary. Don't let this stop you from being fully committed. Like, luckily, I stuck to this process, but when I first gave up dieting, I was so triggered to just overeat on chocolate. It was almost like, oh my God, I've been given like permission, because I worked with a coach, which is why it actually made me become a coach, because it changed my life completely. So I want to do the same for others. I completely just ate chocolate all day, every day for like weeks. And then I was so tempted to go on a diet again, because I thought, well, this isn't working because all I'm doing is eating chocolate all day. But this is where you have to have faith and trust in the process, trust in your coach that it works, because it does. I'm proof of that. So are many of my clients, and so are so many other amazing coaches out there that have lived through this and been through this. You have to stay at it, because eventually, like I mentioned in the episode Intuitive Eating, what does that even mean? Eventually, like, I was one day like, I really want a green shake, and I was like annoyed at myself for like wanting a green shake, but also like pleasantly surprised at the same time. And then you'll gradually start to want like potatoes, and then broccoli, and then maybe you just want to eat soup and butter with bread one day, which I went through a phase of doing. So once you've got everything out your system, practice with your mindset training that I go through in my program of all food is equal, food is just food, eat exactly whatever you want, when you want, your body will let you know what it needs. The scariest bit is the rebellion binges, what tends to happen during the stages of giving up dieting. But to get through it, just stay committed, keep allowing all foods, and do not revert back to dieting. This is why it's so important so important to get support and hire a coach, or if you can't invest in yourself for any reason right now, get support from somebody who understands what you're going through, because it is so important to get support. But if you do revert back to dieting, you're just going to get in the old diet and binge cycle again, even if this time you think you're not going to restrict as much, or you're going to allow all foods apart from your trigger food. No, that's still restricting. So just bear with it, okay? And step 5, know when you're doing it right. So what I mean by this is, when I first gave up dieting and focused on my feelings instead of overeating, life literally seemed to get worse. Like I said to you, all I was doing was eating chocolate all day. I felt shit because I was obviously eating high sugar, high carbs, high fat, which again is neutral, but it made my body feel like shit. I felt shit emotionally because I thought all this intuitive eating stuff obviously doesn't work because I'm not meant to eat chocolate all day. I was too impatient. I hadn't started to work on my body image yet, which is why during coaching with me, we actually work on body image alongside all of this, because the whole problem starts with you not being happy with your body image in the first place. So it all goes hand in hand, guys. So if you start to feel worse when you give up dieting and you're practicing feeling your feelings, it means that you're actually doing it right. So this does seem undesirable, but keep with it and stay strong, because this means your life is getting real. And you know, to get to the other side, to get to food freedom and body acceptance, you've got to go through. You can't go around, there's no shortcut. You've got to go through and you've got to do the work, but it is so worth it. I keep saying this, and it's uncomfortable. You know, getting outside your comfort zone, feeling your feelings is so uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. That's my dog, he wants to go out, but you're gonna have to wait a minute, boy. I'm sorry, mum is recording. 5 minutes. You've got to feel your feelings and just be okay with that. And you're stronger than this, you know. Think of what you've been through in your whole entire life, and just think for a minute what you've actually overcome. You can overcome anything. You're stronger than you think. So if you're really serious about gaining food freedom and body acceptance and never having to diet again, or never having to binge again, or start a diet again on Monday, or have a quick fix diet before your holiday because you need to be bikini ready, like, I can't tell you how amazing it feels not to ever have to do that ever again. It feels so freaking awesome. You can have this, but it does get worse before it gets better. But I can't emphasize enough how important it is to get support through this process, because you will think you're going shit hot crazy at some times, like, I'm not gonna lie. But like I said, the only way to the other side is to go through. So if you need any help, please reach out to me. You're stronger than you think. I do have a free 5-day course on my website. If you sign up, it's just free. I send you a course for 5 days with worksheets, tips to stop dieting and to start towards body confidence and body image work. So that will help get you started. If you're ready for deeper work and true transformation, get in touch, because I'd love to help you. So that's it for me. And I just want to say, you can have, be and do anything you want. You just got to make a choice and go and do it. So I'm here for you. Have a nice day. I love you. I love you so much, guys. Bye.